Hello everybody, welcome back. My next project is going to be on this beautiful Allis Chalmers WD45. I've had this for a couple of years now. I bought it from an old timer who had been working on it in his garage, and he got to the point where his body was kind of failing him and he wasn't able to finish the tractor. So I bought it from him incomplete. I kind of had to put the thing back together and make everything work because, like I said, I got a lot of the parts in boxes. For anybody out there who's never operated one of these classic Allis Chalmers, you're missing out because these are very nice tractors in my opinion. You know, especially the WD45. It's big, it's heavy, it's capable. You know, when you're operating it, it really feels substantial. Roughly 45 horsepower, hence the WD45. All in all, this thing is in very good condition, but the problem is the hydraulic chamber where the hydraulic fluid is leaking into the transmission rear end side. If you look at the dipstick right here for the hydraulics, you can see there's just a little bit on the tip there. Well, if I was to fill that back up with hydraulic fluid and then give it, you know, some time and check the dipstick again, it would look the same. And it doesn't have an external hydraulic leak. So then I checked the oil fill plug right there, took it out. That's for the transmission and the rear end. And oil came, not gushing, but oil came gurgling out of there and onto the ground. So the rear end and transmission were way overfilled with oil. So my working theory is that there's a seal in here between the hydraulic side and the transmission rear end side that must be leaking because there's nowhere else for the oil to go. You know, I fill this chamber up and it ends up over there. So unfortunately, the only way to fix that problem is to split the tractor right there and replace that seal. I'm also getting some oil weeping out around this clutch inspection plate, which I don't think is good either. The hydraulic chamber also has a front seal on it, and I wonder if that one is bad also. I suppose it could be a rear main seal also on the engine. I fear I might be opening up a can of worms here, but regardless, it has to be fixed, right? And this tractor is just too nice not to have everything functioning properly. So the goal for this short video series will be to split the tractor, replace that seal, and fix that leak. That is not a small task. So I've really got to think this through before I get started. Half the battle is going to be coming up with something to support the tractor. I need supports for the front of the tractor and I need supports for the rear of the tractor so that when we split it, you know, the tractor stays where it is. So I actually found this old steel beam out in one of my fields, and you know, I've known it's been out there for a while, and it's always been in the back of my mind that I might use it for something. It is really heavy duty stuff. So here I'm just starting to cut it, and I'm going to weld some feet on the bottom of it so they sit squarely on the ground. And then I'm going to bolt it to the frame rail on the tractor. And this is what I came up with. You can see where I welded feet on the bottom of it so it sits flat. And then I also welded a support tab. So it's going to bolt to the frame rail of the tractor through those holes, and I think these were the two I was going to use on the frame rail. Good morning, everybody. It's the next day now. Before we can do anything else, I need to remove some things like the hydraulic rams, you know, the battery box, the dash cluster there. also need to disconnect the brake rods on both sides. So we'll take the quick pin out and spring and just pull the rod off the pivot point and leave it attached to the back because we don't want to disconnect it. I've already got it adjusted, you know, the way I want it, and these thread in there, so I'm just going to leave that just like that. Same thing on this side. Okay. All right, let's get this battery box out of the way. And there are two more nuts over here that you have to remove. And then the whole thing should just come off. Don't want to lose those washers. There we go. We're going to put these nuts right back on so we know where they are. Now, these four large bolts that hold the frame rails to the rear section, I'm not going to remove those yet, but I do want to get them cracked loose because I tried this one yesterday and it took all I had. I had to get a breaker bar and fight with it, and it finally came loose. So I'd like to get these broken loose so when it does come time to remove them, we don't have to fight with them. So we're just going to run this back down snug until we're ready to take it off for good. Now the bottom one's plural, are going to be more of a challenge. I'm going to try with the impact gun first, and then if I can't do that, I'll have to crawl under there and try to use leverage somehow. Well, I managed to get all four of them loose, and like I said, the ones on the bottom are much more difficult because there's just not a lot of room down there to work. I have a 3/4 drive socket wrench, not a ratcheting wrench, but just a socket wrench. And I was able to get the impact socket on the bolt and have this at kind of an angle like this, and then used a breaker bar like that. I got both of them loose that way, and of course once I got them cracked loose, I was able to spin them off with the impact gun. So anyway, for now I've got them all back down snug. So I think I have everything disconnected from this side. Remember, we're going to split it right here, so there's nothing else on this side holding the two together except for the frame rail at this point. Let's check the other side. And looks like I need to remove this arm and yoke for the hand clutch, but besides that, everything else is disconnected. So I'm gonna get this disconnected, then I'll bring it right back. All right, I've got that arm and yoke removed. Now the only thing left, I think, is to disconnect the PTO from the shaft up front here. All right, now I've got the oil draining from the rear plug. We'll see how much comes out of here, and then we'll drain some more out of the front plug. But that oil still looks really good, so that's good news. Nice and clear, no shiny stuff. All right, let me show you an idea I have for these frame rails. Well, I think you can probably see what I'm trying to do here. When we split the tractor and push the rear end back that way, the idea is that these rods will keep the rear end in alignment with the frame rail. Theoretically, it should make it easier to put back together. And I think this will be long enough for me to reach my hands inside there and replace that seal. And just for your information, these holes in the rear end housing here, they go all the way into the rear end near the brake assemblies. So I ran them in there probably about 3 inches, which I think will be sufficient. I didn't want to run them in there any farther and risk damaging any of the brake components. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side, of course, and I'm going to wrap this video up for today. I need to work on my support for the rear end of the tractor. I think I'm just going to use a floor jack with like something I made for that transfer case. I might even use that same thing, just some kind of a custom wood mount to attach to the floor jack that fits, you know, below the snap coupler. I think that'll be a good place to support it. And the floor jack will be on wheels. And I'll also have the ability to adjust the rear end height just a little bit. You know, I don't have a lot of wiggle room as far as height adjustment because of these rods, but hopefully these will keep everything pretty much in alignment. And with the floor jack, I think we'll be able to get this done. I think there are only 6 bolts that need to be removed now. There's 3 on this side and 3 on the other side, and then we can proceed to split the tractor and make the repair. So I hope you guys join me on the next video to see if we can actually pull this off. In the meantime, thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.